So we got our Wednesday right before Thanksgiving episode today. We got actually a really cool episode for you today. We're going to cover some things that we normally don't cover today, and I kind of got into this total, what do you want to call it, rabbit hole today, but it was actually a really cool rabbit hole, and we're going to walk you down through the fruits of that rabbit hole, and I think there's some really good opportunities. So today, as I was getting started looking at everything, I actually had the business channel on today, and they were talking to the CEO of iHeartRadio. And let me just turn that off. All right, there we go. And he was talking about the fact that, now that the vaccine's out, they're kind of forward planning on concerts at a large scale, which is kind of a big revenue generator for them. I mean, normally they do podcasts and they own radio stations. They have a pretty dynamic portfolio. And diversified portfolio too. But they were talking about concerts, and I was like, wow, okay, well, let's take a look at some concerts. And so I started looking at that, and then I thought, well, I was going into Robinhood, and I said, oh, popular lists. I haven't gone through this in a while. And so I basically went into these lists, looked up top movers, upcoming earnings. Let's see if there's any other ones. Well, I know there were some other ones we looked at. Not consumer goods, not finance, nothing tech, no healthcare. I didn't look at energy, although I could have. Hospitality, entertainment. And were there any other ones that I looked at? That might have been it. All right, yeah, so that was it. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity just to do a refresh and see if there's any stocks that have some good upside. Now that we know there's a vaccine coming, and we talked about the fact that there's really not a lot of if you're really thinking forward and seeing through the mist, so to speak, there's not a lot of uncertainty left there. But yet, not everybody is banking on that. Not everybody's doing the research that we're doing. And guess what? Not everybody's watching this podcast, but you are. Okay? So one of the things we're going to talk about today are some of the stocks that I looked at today. And, some of them I decided we're going to put some orders in, and some of them I decided not to. And so I'm not going to go through every one I looked at, because there were a bunch that just didn't make any sense. They either made all their earnings up, or they had a negative trend, or, there wasn't just something easy to see. So I wanted to take a look at stocks that just immediately you just took a look at their 5-year, their 1 year, and probably their last month even maybe. You took a look at their earnings, and you took a look at a big picture at what they do and how it correlates to the pandemic and the vaccine coming out. So I'm going to kind of walk through these, and I'll show you some of the stocks that I bought. And also we want to look at the upside for them. All right, so the first one we looked at was one called Ashford Hospitality Trust. And just cards face up on the table. I used to work for a university called Ashford. So I was like, all right, we'll take a look and see what they do. So one of the things they do is they are a REIT. They work in the hospitality industry. They do direct hotel investments and first mortgage financing through origination or acquisition, sale leaseback transactions, which basically means, let's say you have a hotel or a casino or whatever. They sell this person. They basically go from an owner of the real estate to a lessee. So basically they sell it, and then they lease it back to the person who's actually occupying it. So I looked at that, and I'm like, all right, well, let's take a look at that real quick. We took a look at their earnings overall. They just are really good at meeting earnings. They didn't really have anything for Q2, but Q3 they blew out of the water. So one of the things I wanted to look at was their 5-year. And relatively good until 2018. And then we always want to find our point where the market went down, which was basically right here. So it was at 25.60. So we take a look at there. And this is basically death day, so to speak, 25.60. Dramatically went down. And then this is basically where all the numbers were going down right before the rioters hit. And went up to 17.30 from around 6, so basically tripled. And then as basically kind of the uncertainty came in, it got all the way down to about $1.37, and it's sitting at $2.99 right now. But basically in June when it hit, it went all the way to 17. So if we look at that as a ratio, we're basically looking at 5.5 to 1. But if we look at where they were on February 20th, we're looking at $25. So $25 divided by 3, I mean, that's 8-1. So I was like, we are doing that. So, taking a look at this, we decided I'm not going to put a ton in. We basically put about 1830 with an 8-1 ratio. We're going to put about $2,000 in. It's not a big deal. It's an easy amount we're going to do. And we'll see where things go. But that was just an absolute no-brainer. And so we see that right here. So we bought 1830 and it's dropped a few cents. Could have done a limit order. I just want to get in on it, so I'm not too worried about it. And we look at them. Oh, we'll also look for the month. And we see since the vaccine was announced, we start to see some really good activity popping up. So I don't care if I lost a couple cents here and there on the front end of it. We're good to go. All right. So let's take a look at the next one. We have Hall of Fame Resort. And I'm like, which Hall of Fame is this? Well, it turns out it's the Football Hall of Fame. And so we took a look right here. They basically it's a resort and entertainment company. So they have the Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame. And I'm sure there's resorts and golf. I pretty much guarantee there's golf courses there for sure. And leverages the power and popularity of professional football and its legendary players, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it's founded by a guy named Michael Crawford. I think he's related to one of my uncles because I know a lot of Crawfords in Northeast Ohio, and they're probably related to my uncle. So, and this is based in Canton, which is just south of Cleveland. So I looked at them for their 5-year, and it's relatively flat. I'm not really sure what was going on until here, but basically, maybe it was they probably did a reverse split or something like that, considering that it was like in June. And this just has all the hallmarks of a reverse split. So we look at it, basically went from, went from about 1074 and it got basically down to about 188 and took a big spike to 415. So that's tripling basically. And this was just a few weeks ago. I mean, this was right around the election. Went right back down to about 220, took another drop down to 116. And I'm thinking this is like right around the Football Hall of Fame. And having grown up there, they got a lot of foot traffic. And I'm thinking, man, when this, we look at this, this is probably around right. Yeah, this was right the 5th. This was basically when Moderna came out and said, it was Pfizer came out and said, hey, we got a virus. And that was this spike. So it got down to 130. And I'm like, this is an awesome, if nothing else, it's an awesome flyer. So we look at their earnings for Q1, Q2, and Q3. They hit their earnings. Again, their earnings dropped, but they hit their expectations. So that's good. And I'm like, we are definitely getting in on this. So if we're looking at for a year, it's not really a year, but 1074 divided by 133, we're basically looking somewhere around 8 to 1 upside. I'm like, yeah, this is worth putting something in here for. So we put in a limit order of 133. It literally just filled right before I started this video. So $2,000. If it goes back up to where it was before in June, then we're looking at, $16,000. So it's definitely worth the float. And it's surrounded by a world-class tourist attraction. So that's a no-brainer. All right, another Ashford. Again, I used to work for them. Or not them, but somebody with that name. So this company is, let's see, asset management. That could mean anything. Advisory services. That could mean anything. And other products and services, primarily clients in the hospitality industry. Its segments include REIT advisory and hospitality products and services. So it's basically a REIT, a hospitality REIT. So, of course, we're going to expect it to get hammered back in the beginning of the year. So, look at February 20th. It was at 23. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.